Okay, so here's the deal. You thought you were coming for an end of year, Sunday, relaxed, easy message. I've got 2 Sundays left preaching at this campus. Not forever, just as campus pastor. So today and next week. Next week I'm going to share with you the 3 titles that I use with Jesus that are meaningful to me. But today I wanted to talk about this concept of heaven and hell and what it means for us. So what questions do we have? By the way, this is a Jewish tradition where at services you can question the rabbi. So question the pastor. Go ahead. What questions did somebody raise or do you have? There was lots of conversation, so I know there were questions. Go ahead. Good question. Is heaven or hell an actual destination or a state of being? We'll look into that. I'll unpack that a little. Yeah. Yes, the people who walked away. Yeah. Great. We'll talk about that. Like, where do they go? Yeah, good question. Carol. Why would God send a good person to hell? There's a lot of nuances in that, yeah. You mean those who have never heard about Jesus? Yep. So, let's talk about those. Do you know in the New Testament who speaks about hell more than anybody else? It's easy. Give the Christian answer. Jesus. Jesus is the most prolific speaker of hell than any other New Testament writer. Brian. Oh, Bex. Oh, he just threw you right under the bus. Sorry, say that again. In heaven or hell or whatever, yeah. Yeah, good question. Do we get to see our loved ones again? Absolutely. The most difficult question anybody could throw at me is, will my pet be in heaven? And I cannot answer that for you. The Bible does not speak about, will your pet be in heaven? So I have no answer to that. But let's talk a little bit about hell, and let's unpack some of these questions. Yes, John. Is hell painful physically or mentally? Is that what you said? Yeah, that's good. Is hell painful physically or mentally? So this verse might answer that question. Here's what Jesus says. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Jesus, there are 12 verses in the New Testament that use the word that is translated here for hell. 11 times it is used by Jesus. Once it is used by his brother. In James. James talks about the tongue is like a fire, and the only thing that can destroy the tongue is the fires of hell. So when you read that, it kind of sounds a little, John, like it's both, right? Physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. It's this all-encompassing thing. Does anybody know what the word for hell is that's translated here? It's an Aramaic word. This is the word, Gehenna. Gehenna is a fabulous word. Carries lots of history and connotations to it. By the time Jesus used it, the Jews of the day used this word to talk about eternal damnation. And when we use the word eternal, we often think about eternal as being just time going on forever. But eternal doesn't mean time going on forever. Eternal means no time existing. You're outside of time. There is no past, present, or future. There just is. It's a very weird concept. If you're a Star Trek fan, they kind of get a little bit of it. So go watch some Star Trek time warp stuff. But this idea of, for Gehenna, for Jews at this time, there was a particular place they were looking at, but it was a representation for them of an eternal destruction. In fact, they believed the place that this referenced was the entryway to hell. this place of eternal destruction. It's a valley in Jerusalem. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but that is the valley, that is the city of Jerusalem. I'm going to just put this down for one. No, I can make it here. Can you see this valley here? That's called the Valley of Hinnom, which in that day was called Gehenna. That valley has historical connotations for the Jews. You see, in that valley, during the time of the Israelite kings, actually before the Israelite kings, as the Jews were coming into the promised land and conquering the nations, that valley was the place where two gods were worshipped. The god of Baal, the god of the sky, and the way you worshiped the god of the sky was to go to a temple, hire a prostitute, and sleep with them out in the open sky. So the god of the sky would see you sleeping with a prostitute and be persuaded to rain on the earth so that there would be crops. So a place where women and men were abused in order to worship a god. The second god that was worshipped there was the god Molech. The way you worship the god Molech is that as a husband, you would take your firstborn child and you would throw them into the fires of Molech and destroy your firstborn child. The Jews, when they came to those places, were overwhelmed by that level of destruction and horrific abuse of people. And God says to them, do not practice like the nations before you. Except if you read the Chronicles and Kings, that's exactly what the kings did. They began to practice and worship those gods. That was the Valley of Hinnom. It became a place synonymous with death, destruction, idolatry, just horrific perspectives. So the prophets would talk about that valley as a place of destruction, as a place you don't want to go, as a place God says don't participate in. So in Jesus' day, what they did at that place, in that valley, is that's where they threw all their trash. So all of the trash from the city was collected and carried into the Valley of Hinnom and thrown there. Now, when you think about trash, I don't want you to think about the nice, neat bag that you wrap in plastic and carry down and the waste disposal comes and collects. I want you to think about all of that stuff, no plastic because they didn't have plastic then, but all of the waste from your home, food garbage, human waste, dead animals, leftover carcasses, you would collect and you would go and throw into the Valley of Hinnom. And then they would burn it. So you'd burn the trash to get rid of it. By Jesus' day, there was so much trash being thrown into the Valley of Hinnom that the fires never went out. They burnt day in, day out. So for a moment, if you've ever been to a trash heap, think about the smell of waste, dead carcasses, rotting food, and then the smell of burning. Jesus would talk about hell, and you'd say, Gehenna is like that. In fact, to answer your question about is it a state of existence or a place, Jesus, in referencing Gehenna, never references it as a place. He typically references it as a state of existence, a way of living. Gehenna, he says, is a place you choose to go to when you don't want to let go of things that separate you from God. Key phrase, you choose to go there because you won't let go of what God says will keep you away from him. So he gives this parable, right? It is better for you to go into heaven with one eye gone or a hand gone than going to hell full and complete. So he's standing there, points to the Valley of Hinnom and says, it's better that you lose a hand than go there. This place that just burns forever. He talks about it over and over again using these descriptions of a way of living. And let me ask you this question. Would you want to live there? No. Nobody would willingly choose to live in a trash heap with a history of child sacrifice and sexual oppression and abuse. Nobody would choose to live there. It was Jesus' way of trying to give a description of that's what life without God is like. It's horrific, it's terrible, it's horrible. And he says, don't be afraid of what people here are going to say to you and do to you. Worry about that place. It's a scary place to consider. We don't give it. It's a description of punishment, suffering, a rejection of God, grief, finality. Would you see your loved ones there? Maybe, but I don't know if you would want to. And I don't think they would want to see you there. Scary, right? Horrific. Here are some reasons why I don't think Christians think hell is real. We don't think hell is that bad or that real, because if we did, we would do everything we could to tell everybody about how to avoid that place. We would do everything we could to tell people, don't end up there. The other reason is that I don't think we think heaven is that good or that real, because you know what's really good in our writings? You know what we're very good at describing is hell. We have all these, the Roman philosophers and writers were very good at describing hell in these elaborate punishments. And when they got to heaven, it was like angels flying in formation and, wispy clouds. It was just like weird. But we were very good at describing hell and torment. So either we don't think hell is real enough, or we don't think heaven's real enough, that we're not moved to try to tell others that there's a better way to be. There's a better life to live. There's a better state of existence. Or, third reason why I think Christians don't think hell is that real is that we think it's about us, not about others. I'm good. And let's talk about this concept of goodness. Somebody back there, I think it was Carol, asked, why would God send good people to hell, right? So, a couple of nuances. God doesn't send people to hell, they choose to go there. And he loves us so much that he says, you have a choice. You can choose hell, with life without me, or you can choose life with me. But I'll honor your choice. And so you get to make that choice. You get to make that choice now. And he tries to paint the picture in every way we can to understand you really don't want to go there. Let's talk about the other side of the equation, heaven. You had a number of questions about hell. I don't think I answered all of them, but we'll come back to them. I'd like you to take just a couple of minutes. What are your questions about heaven? Talk at your tables again. What are your questions about heaven? Let's hear some of your questions about heaven. What are some of your questions about heaven? Go ahead, Joe. Like golden roads and that. So why do people care? I don't know. I don't know what people's personal motivation is. But I think it's because it's so ethereal and unknown, we try to get specific about it. Jesus actually gives a very specific description of heaven, which we'll look at in just a little bit. So, other questions? Will we find our loved ones there? Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah? Is there music in heaven? Good question. Yeah. Right. Do people have the mental capabilities of understanding God, go to heaven or hell? I have a question for you related to that. The thief on the cross who said to Jesus, I want to be with you in paradise. How much did he understand about Jesus? What did he know? Had he done a theological degree? Did he ask questions about heaven or hell? Did he even understand what he was asking? All he knew is the person in front of him had done something amazing. He said, I want to be with you. There is this idea that there is a mental acuity that people need to get to in order to claim to follow Jesus on their own. Depending on your faith tradition, until you've reached that stage, your destination is heaven. So the most prolific way we talk about that is when a baby dies. We don't think God sends them to hell. We think they are captured by Jesus and taken into heaven. That's what we believe here at Faith Community Church. So the bar of mental acuity is set by Jesus, not by us. And Jesus says, I want to make it as easy and as possible for you to enter into this place called heaven with me. And you know why he makes it easy? Because he could have made it hard. He could have stayed in heaven and said, keep trying, keep working. But what he did is he went, you can't do it. So guess what? I'm going to do it for you. You know the standard you have to live by? I'm going to live by that standard. You don't have to. And you know the entryway, the entryway getting out is death. I'm going to pay the price of that for you. This is something that as Christians we struggle to understand. You don't have to do anything. It's called grace. Unmerited favor. Jesus does it all for you. You just have to trust him. Which is very hard for us. Other questions? We're going to talk exactly about that. Are there many rooms, is what she asked. So again, to talk about this, is it a state of existence or a place? In Jesus' day, their concept of the world was a flat earth. This is the Jewish concept of the world. A flat earth. Below was a place called Hades. And above was the sky, the first heaven. Then the firmament, the second heaven. And then above the firmament, the third heaven, where they believe heaven was. Which when the Russian cosmonaut got into space, went, there is no God. That's the mindset they were thinking. But in a world that is a universe that's constantly expanding, can you please tell me which way is up and which way is down? So when the Bible uses those images, they're thinking of a specific worldview that is not our worldview anymore. So they are states of existence. Are they actual places? I don't know if they're actual places. I mean, what does it mean to go to a place that's outside of time? I don't know. I've never been there. But Jesus is trying to describe a state of existence. He actually uses 3 different words in his Gospels when he speaks about heaven. Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. The word for heaven here is the word sky. It just is the Greek word for sky, Uranus. Sky, the sky, that it's above, the place above. And he's trying to highlight for the Jews who are listening, this place higher than what you see, that's heaven. Store up there things that can't be destroyed. And I love John Stott's answer to that question. What could you store up in heaven that can't be destroyed here? That can't be destroyed there? What can you do now to store up stuff in heaven? It's not money. Relationships. He talks about relationships, yeah. Christ-like character, developing love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. The character you work on now is character that is even further enhanced in heaven. Taking money, giving it towards agencies. I think it was my son at the back there said, what about people who have never heard of the word Jesus? That's why we need to go and tell them, so that they have heard. What happens if they haven't heard? God decides. Not Christians, not the Pope, not Dorian, not us, not you. God decides what happens to those people. And we believe in a God who is good and just and righteous, so his decision is going to be good, just, and right. But there's this place he calls about as the sky. There's another place he talks about when he uses this phrase, for example, whoever believes in the Son has eternal life, but whoever rejects the Son will not see life, for God's wrath remains on them. The word that he uses here for heaven, eternal life, is the Greek word Zoe. If you ever heard that name, ever heard somebody called Zoe, it means life. And if Jesus is using it, it means eternal life. And it's used over and over again, this place of life. The word Zoe means prosperity, success, health, wholeness, abundance, joy. It's this effervescent view of life. That's how Jesus describes it. If you have the Son, you have that. But if you reject the Son, you're saying, I don't want that. My son once asked me, he said, why doesn't God give people the opportunity, even after death, to choose life? Well, I don't know whether he will or won't. I mean, the Bible says you only get the chance here in this life. But here's the reality. Are there people today in this life who know the right thing to do, the good thing to do, but intentionally choose the wrong thing? Here's the easy one. Many people want to lose weight. They know the right thing to do, the good thing to do, but those chocolate chip cookies this morning when I walked in were far too tempting. There are people, the Bible tells us, who when given all of the evidence, when given all of the opportunity, will look God in the face and say, I don't want to be with you. And God, who loves us so deeply, will not force anybody into heaven against their will say, then you can go. Is he sending, or are they choosing? The easy answer, by the way, to the question about music in heaven, Revelation paints this picture of a circle around a throne with people, thrones around the throne of God, with angels standing around those thrones, with a great multitude that can't be counted standing around that, and they're all doing one thing, singing. So yes, I think there's music in heaven. There are also animals in heaven, according to Revelation. Yeah? Sure. Do our pets go? I don't know. But we know they're horses. Well, they're descriptions. Are they real, or is it a description? Those are things that we have to wrestle through. But when Jesus talks about it, he paints this picture of this place that you think is beyond everything you can see, that contains life that is more effervescent and abundant than you could ever hope for. And then Jesus gives the best description about heaven I've ever heard. Do not let your hearts be troubled. This is on the night he was betrayed. This is on the night he's saying to his followers, I'm leaving you. I'm going to get killed tomorrow. and they are troubled, they are disheartened, they're anxious, they don't know what's going to happen. And Jesus said, do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God? Good. Also, believe in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I'm going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. Jesus is painting this picture of a house with many rooms. There's an imagery to that I'll get to. But he says, I'm going to come back, take you to come be with me, and we're going to be together. I love this picture of a house with many rooms that Jesus talks about. And he says, you know the place to where I'm going. And we'll come back to that for a moment. This is a picture of a palace. Just try to find a house with many rooms. Because for the Israelite followers, the disciples of Jesus, when he said, I'm going to my Father's house, which has many rooms, I've shared this with, some of you may know this, I've shared this with you before. In that day and age, the only people who had houses with many rooms were the uber wealthy, the nobility, the emperors, the kings. They had houses with many rooms. The average person did not have a house with many rooms. They had a house with one common area, and then everybody had to share that common area, including the animals that couldn't be outside if it was winter, all shared that common area. So at best, what you had was a sleeping mat over to the side. Remember, bathrooms and toilets were outside. If you wanted some peace and quiet, you went up onto the roof to get away from people. And you know why, how we know that? Because Peter did that. Peter, when we talk about him having a vision, he was up on a roof. He's like, I've had enough of you. I've got to get away. That's what the average life was. You had no privacy. You had nothing called your own room. At best, you pulled a curtain along. And Jesus says, my Father has a house with many rooms. And here's where he blew them away. I'm going to prepare a place just for you. I'm going to create a room that is perfect for you. This is the question I like playing about, why do we want a picture of heaven? Because it's hard to understand what eternal joy looks like. Eternal life looks like. The closest, the movie that got the closest to it for me was The Good Place. And even they couldn't tolerate it. Because at the end of The Good Place, they eventually said, you know what, you just get so bored here that you'd want to choose to no longer exist. Just like, because we can't fathom what eternity looks like, and this joy looks like, and this place looks like. But here's the game I like to play. If Jesus is going to prepare a room just for me, I like to ask Jesus, what are you putting in my room? Nice, comfortable bed. I'd like a hot tub, please, Jesus. I'd love a fireplace. I'd love a door with a lock. I like people, but sometimes I just need to be alone. But some others of you might have a list of people you're going to invite, and you're going to have places for people to party. It's a description of luxury, of joy, of privilege, of wonder, of something done just for you. Imagine the God of the universe saying, I'm making a place for you. Look, think of the love that goes into that. Our son came back from college. Our younger son was like, oh my word, look at everything you're doing for him. We cleaned the house. We prepared his room. We put all special things in his room that we know he likes. I know my younger son was like, what's in my room? Like, hello. Yeah, right? Go to college. When you come back, we'll put things in your room, okay? Why do we do that? To annoy my younger son? No, because we want to tell our older son how much we love him and want him back and want him to enjoy his time here. I'm telling you now, when you go visit your parents, they're going to do that for you. And when your kids come to visit you, you're going to do that for them. When you have friends come over, you want to prepare something nice for them. It's an expression of love and acceptance and welcome. That's what Jesus is saying. And he's saying, you know what? I'm not going to make it hard for you to find this place. I'm going to come and find you and take you back because you know the place where I'm going. And you know what Thomas said? Hold on, Jesus. How do we know the place? If you would just show us, we would know how to get there. And how did Jesus answer him? I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. Being with Jesus is being in heaven. Being with Jesus is having life. Being with Jesus is your room. So is it a place? Maybe, maybe not. But it's definitely a state of existence, of joy, of love. Same question. Would you want to live there? Would you want to live in a room prepared just for you, with everything that you want? Or would you want to live on a trash heap? So you're left with a choice. We get to choose now where we spend eternity. And Jesus says, I am the way. It doesn't require a lot. You can come with questions. You don't have to believe everything. You just have to trust. You get to choose now for eternity. And if you're not ready to make that choice, that's okay. But you do get to choose now. And the choice is on offer over and over again. But the reality is you don't know when that time is going to run out on that choice. It's like the Jeopardy answer, but the time is ticking down and no music is playing, so you don't know when it's coming to the end. You get to choose now. But here's something I'd like to say just for a moment. So if you're not a Christian, if you're not a follower of Christ, choose the blue door. In Deuteronomy, this is what God says to the followers of Israel. He says, I set before you life or death. Choose life. Choose life. Choose the blue door. Choose heaven. Choose to be with Jesus because there's so much to promise there. But here, I want to talk to Christians just for a moment. Your choice for eternity is also a choice of how you live for today. Do you live as though there is a room prepared for you, as though there is a God who loves you, as though there is a relationship giving you effervescent love, joy, and acceptance? Because I tell you, when I look at Christians today, wow, we're a miserable bunch. We want to complain, we want to yell, we want to scream, we want to tell everybody else how they're going to hell. Why would we say that to someone? Why would we say to somebody, you're going to a place where dead bodies and feces is being burnt forever? Why? Why would we not live in a way with a lightness of spirit and a joy that makes other people want to be around us? Which is, by the way, that's why I love this community. You make it a joy to be around. I just hope you make it a joy to be around outside of here. And if we live our lives this way, what would it be for us to live in a way that is an encouragement to other people to come and be with them? So you choose for eternity. That's your choice. But you also choose how you live for today. And the third thing is, if you're a follower of Christ, tell other people, not about hell. Tell other people about a God who prepares a room for them. Tell other people about a God who loves them so much, He will do anything and place anything to help them find the way forward. Tell other people about a God who just wants to be with them. So that's how Jesus talks about heaven. I would never, ever deign to try to be greater than Jesus. But there was an image that I came across that when I saw the image, it blew me away because it said to me, that's heaven for me. Because I don't know about you, but when I try to live for today, right here, it's very hard. I have sins in my life, and when I say in my life, I'm not talking about past sins. I'm talking about present habitual present habits that stalk me and haunt me and chase me down, and things that I try to get away from, but I fall for over and over again. I feel like somebody who's hunted. I love Jesus so much, but you know what I want to do one day is just see him. Just to have a Thomas experience, because Jesus, I have loads of doubts, but I would love to just see you and experience you. Those are my thoughts. That is my hunger. That is what goes on within me. And then I saw this image. That's heaven for me, because I will run into the arms of my friend. My friend who knows everything about me and says, Dorian, I still love you. My friend who knows all the bad things I've done and says, Dorian, I'll forgive you. My friend who knows the deepest desires of my heart and says, Dorian, I place those within you and I will help you meet them. I can't wait to run into the arms of my Lord. That's heaven. And his arms are big enough that all my loved ones, all the people I enjoy, all the people who drive me crazy, but he loves and wants me to love, his arms are big enough that there is space for every single one of them to be hugged at the same time. So where are we headed? I hope you will join me in running to the Father. And so that's how we want to end our time today. Bex and Brian are going to sing that song to us, and I would like to invite you to run to the Father, to come as you are to Jesus, to make the choice, not once, not to get out of hell card, but to choose to be with Jesus card.